Good morning to you all. This is the legal prophet, Legumba Keris candidate. Today we're going to look at land law 1, and majorly we are going to begin with the meaning of land. So first of all, you should know that land comprises of a lot of issues or a lot of things. It is some unit that a person should be well versed with at his fingertips, and you should be well to explain it, understand it, because you'll even meet it at the center, that is LDC. So you should know that land includes an aspect of hereditament. Basically, an hereditament, this is something that can pass from one person to another, and the hereditaments can be subdivided into two. There is what we call the corporeal hereditament. The corporeal hereditament, this is the hereditament that can be seen and touched. For example, land and others. Anything that can be touched, seen, and passed to another person is known as a corporeal hereditament. Then the other hereditament is what we call the incorporeal. This is what cannot be seen, cannot be touched, but it is capable of being owned by someone. For example, we can see the different leases. We shall see easements. We shall see rights appendary, among others. Now, we have to know what is land. On what is land, we're going to find that there is no conclusive definition of what land is. However, land can originate from a common law Latin maxim known as the ad colum. You can call it the ad colum principle, or you just call it the ad colum principle, because that Latin maxim is kind too long, but call it the ad colum principle. So that principle means that land is something one can own on the surface, above the surface, and underneath. Meaning that for someone to say that I have land, you own the surface, that is the soil, up over the soil, wagulu, up to maybe going to the sky, then underneath. Actually, the common law people used to say that a person owns land on the sky up to the gates of heaven, and he owns land on the surface up to the gates of hell. Meaning that you can own, during common law, you used to own land from the surface up to the gates of heaven, meaning that up to anywhere, so long as it is your land, anywhere up, or your land, everything down your land. So that's the way they had to define what land was. So with defining again what land was, they had to come up with the four explanations of what land is. One, you own the surface, that is clear. It can be seen under Article 237 of the Ugandan Constitution 1995. Every person has a right to own land privately, either by customary, by lease, by milo, and by freehold. So you can own the surface, meaning that any person who trespasses or comes through the surface of your land commits or is liable to trespass to land. Then you can own land in the airspace. So you're going to see the aspect of airspace had a lot of issues. So up to what degree should someone own up to the airspace? So we're going to see that during common law, a person could own land up to the gates of heaven, meaning that there was no limitation. There was no limitation. However, they had to come up with what we call the usability principle. So the usability principle came in to limit the ownership of how do you own land, up to what stage do you own land up. So they had to come up with the usability principle, where they said that you should only own land up to where you are capable to own. Meaning that if you cannot construct a flat of 100 floors, meaning that you cannot own land up to that all part, meaning that they look at the usability. If I'm able to construct a flat of 2,000 floors, I will own up to that stage. But if I cannot, then you cannot say that me, I own land up to the sky. No, they had to come up with a usability principle. Up to what stage can you use that airspace? Then they also had to come up with what we call the advancement in technology. You know, the advancement in technology had to come up with a limitation. Up to where do you have to own land? So the issues of airplanes, among others, had to say that a person now cannot own up to the gates of heaven, rather to a reasonable place. But the reasonable place is what I've said. They had to look at your capability or usability or right or capacity to use the sky. So we see this can also be seen in our section 58 of the Civil Aviation Act. Section 58 of the Civil Aviation Act, which says that an aeroplane, if it passes through your airspace, it does not commit trespass or nuisance, even if it has, unless it has directly done it with maybe intention. But where it passes through your airspace, it does not commit any aspect of trespass to land or any aspect to uh, to 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 what to nuisance. Then you also look at the common law case of bans of Kelson versus Imperial British Tobacco. It shows that any mere trespass, even if it is an inch into someone's airspace, it amounts to trespass. You'll read that interesting case. Read the case of Bernstein versus Sky Views. All that explain the airspace. Then we go to the other part of what land. You own land up to the surface. That is, initial at common law, you used to own land even up to the gates of heaven. However, today, again, they said no, not up to the gates of heaven. Now, they had to come up with the issues of what of the mineral deposits, minerals found within your land down. Initially, where minerals were found down, some of the minerals used to belong to the landowner and some used to belong to Her Majesty, that is the Queen. However, in Uganda, that is not the case. Where the minerals are found within someone's land, those minerals do not belong to the landowner, but rather they belong to the government or they belong to the country at large. For example, that can be seen in Article 244 of the Constitution. You look at Section 44 of the Land Act. You as well look at Section 3 of the Mining Act. They all explain that aspect, that where minerals are found into someone's land, they don't belong to that person, but rather they belong to the state. However, that person, while they are requesting him to leave, they have to first adequately compensate that person to leave the land, as per Article 26 of the same Constitution. So meaning that today in Uganda, where you find minerals in my land, they don't belong to me, but they belong to the state. Then we have to look at the aspect of the doctrine of the horizontal strata. The doctrine of the horizontal strata, again in land law, this is the aspect known as the condominium. You will find that a person can own on the same land, but they are different buildings. For example, it is a flat. I own the land. I own the first floor. You own the second floor. You own the third floor. All those people are landowners. You should not say that the one who has the ground floor is the owner. No, you own that part. So that is what we call the doctrine of the horizontal strata. So even where someone maybe constructs something underneath, again, that thing belongs to that person. Basically, that is the meaning of what land is. Thank you very much.